Alright, perhaps I'm overdoing it here with this panel line color, but I don't want to give up on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do bare plastic, which will in a way simulate enamel or lacquer finish, sort of. And we'll just sort of try it out here. Like I'll zoom in and you see there's a little door here and a ladder and something else here and another door, and on this one there's a couple of doors, 3 doors on this one, and looks like maybe it's supposed to be a little light. And the idea of that panel line stuff is it's supposed to go around the edges and just highlight everything. Produce almost like shadows. Alright, we'll give it a whirl. I'm going to zoom in. Now I think the idea is if you remove the excess, it's supposed to leave a black line, a delicate black line all the way around the edges. Whoops. Okay, I think I wasted my money. Let's try it on this piece here. At a distance I can see where this is going to be okay. Now I'll try and hold this down and we'll wipe off the excess. While I'm sitting here right now editing this, I was just thinking, you know what, if I was to let this completely dry and then maybe have a little bit of solvent or something on the Q-tip and then quickly brush over the surface that was proud, yeah, it might leave the stuff in the cracks instead of wicking it out into the Q-tip. Yeah, it's a thought. Give it a try, but not today. I got some parts I want to assemble, and also we want to take a close look at the hull. We've wasted enough time already with this stuff. I spent about 2.5–3 hours at step number 6. I got it all done. There's 5 capstans number 3, 4 capstans number 4, and for some reason they only needed 1 of this size. Now this vent tube number 1, see that little tiny ladder on there? Well, gluing that on, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was when it fell on the floor and I had to get down on my hands and knees with a flashlight and find it. But fortunately, because it reflected light, I did spot it. Vent tube number 2. It's got a piece of photo etch on there. I wasn't quite sure where it was supposed to go, but yeah, diagram here just wasn't 100% clear. First I thought maybe it was supposed to glue underneath this hood, but no, that didn't make sense. And vent tube number 3, well, that was simple, just 2 easy little pieces to glue together. Now each one of these pieces did have flashing on them. Each one had to be filed or sanded. Like I say, 2.5, 3 hours. Anyway, step 6 is done. Now here we are, step 7, the training gun. Now before we get going on step 7 here, and I'd really like to have it all done by the end of this episode, let's find ourselves a nice pristine slide here and get it ready for the next test that I'm planning to do here. You know, I'm only going to handle it by the edges. Don't want to touch it with my fingers. I've got other plans. Okay. Just one little drop. Only in the middle. Okay, there should be fingerprints on there. Now it's interesting here, I can't see any residue from the extra thin cement. Maybe if I got the light at a different angle I might see it. But what I've got to do now is, in order to be able to work with this slide, I'm going to just give it a touch here of curing agent. No, by it I mean the CA glue. Oh yeah, that's getting pretty set up there. Okay, what have we got here now? Yeah. That's not going to run off if I turn it on its side. Okay, here's our CA glue. Here's our residue of extra thin. In the middle there's my fingerprint. On the far end, I'm just going to mask this off here. Mold release. The real stuff. I shook the can, and I'm not going to bother with the furnace or the face mask, but I think I will turn on the fan. And I managed to not bang my head this time. Here we go. Now I realize that this is probably not the same kind of mold release that Trumpeter uses in their molds when they're, making these models, but it's mold release. It's greasy. And yeah, you'll remember this is what I used when I was making those Eliminator molds and, like pen blanks and that sort of thing. So anyway, okay, you don't use it to start your barbecue. You don't use it as a shiny pendant around your neck. You don't play cricket with it? Or is it you don't paddle it? Anyway, yeah. Well, it'll be okay. I bought this degreaser several years ago. When I got my metal lathe, it was just covered with some sort of grease. And I used this to get the grease off of it. It worked really well. I'm noticing here that it's okay for using on plastics. At least that's what it says. Now, what it says in French here, because I don't read French, it might be something to the effect of do not use on plastics. Yeah, here in Canada, we're bilingual. We're half English and half French. And, you know, when they vote me in as dictator, there's just going to be one language, mine. Okay, I'm pretty sure you know that I was just kidding around there about the one language thing. However, looking at this slide, I can just barely see the residue from the Tamiya extra thin cement. And in a way, I guess that's really a good thing. It completely evaporates. And the only thing that would be left behind, I guess, would be the solidified plastic, which it had turned into a molten state. Molten? Anyway, into a liquid state. And yeah, sort of the parts would weld themselves together and the glue itself would completely disappear. I mean, it can't get much better than that. Now let's put this glass slide in a nice safe place. I've already accidentally smeared my fingerprint and had to redo it, but the rest is the same. Yeah. Now we need D10, 11, and 12. And okay, I guess 12 would be, okay, that would be for this gun. We're going to do this one first. So we need D10, 11, D3, and J30. Well, here's 10, 11, and well, we'll find the rest, don't worry. Okay, we've got training gun number 1 and training gun number 2 made. Now we get on to the depth charge, which requires photo etch. And the idea is these are supposed to represent depth charges. So I have to make this little cage type thing. I guess this will be the base. So this has to be folded up. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little scored line there. Has to be folded up, I guess, at right angles, so it'll look like this. And this piece has to be folded to look like this. And then this must be the base that holds the depth charges on. Everything is incredibly small here. Very small. And you can see that little scored line there. I guess the idea is that you line the edge of your bending tool with this line, and then I would think we just bend on the line. And according to what I've heard on the internet, you bend towards the scored line. Oh, a little bit more. Well, we're getting there. Yeah, that looks more or less at right angles. Maybe a teensy bit more. Yeah, that should do it. Now somehow I've got to glue this in here. Actually, it's got little tabs on there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's little tabs, and I guess they would sort of lock in place. I'm still going to have to use a little bit of CA thin, though, or something. Yeah. Now, I'd really like to be able to show some of these steps, but because I have to hold the piece just right, but I can show you what I did do. On the bottom here, I held it like this, and then using a little tiny dab of CA glue right here and here, and the same on the other sides. And it's glued in place pretty good. I think once it's painted over, nobody's going to see it. And the idea is, I think these little depth charges, I haven't tried it yet, it's supposed to go in like that. Yeah. Now, isn't that cute? Whoops. I'll get it. And the last one here. Well, I guess you figured out the fact that I've got the dime there to, show comparison of size. And I know I've said this before, that a Canadian dime is the exact same size as an American dime. So that'll give you an idea of just how tiny this is. I think I got it. I think I might be smart to just put a little tiny bit of glue on one of these little drums here. Keep them all from falling out, because if it ever fell on the carpet, it's a goner. Okay, a change in plans here. Again, if I glue those little simulated depth charges into this rack, then when I paint it, everything's going to be the same color. I'm thinking now that what I should do is paint them a different color. In other words, the rack could be dark and the little barrels could be lighter. I don't know what color they really were. I don't know if anybody even knows anymore. However, recognize these things? Well, when you get a pen kit, you got a whole bunch of these little bags left over, sometimes as many as 6 of them per kit. Well, I saved all mine. Well, not all of them, but I saved a lot of them. And I've got a bag full of bags. Mostly little ones. Must be 100 or more in there. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my little barrels, very carefully if I can here, because the camera's on, this probably won't work, and I'll just dump them in there. Whoops, the whole thing went in. Like I said, camera's on, it's not going to work. Okay, so there we are. We got our 3 little barrels in there. Now, just a moment ago I noticed it says make 2. So I got to make another one. Anyway, I'll do that later. In the meantime, I'll get this video uploaded so that you can watch it tonight around supper time, all being well. And tomorrow, we'll soak this in hot water with that special detergent. And my hope is that it does not affect the CA glue or this residue from the extra thin. But it will take off my fingerprint completely, and that it will take off this release agent completely. Yeah, but that'll be tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.